Hey, secret friends, welcome back to Code 47, our Star Trek podcast, here on the Secret Friends Unite.
Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Podcasting Network. This is episode number 166. Wrong franchise, I get it. But anyway, or at least it's not 666, but maybe someday we'll get there. I have no idea. I am Charlie Carden, your Trek Lord of West Michigan, your humble servant, joined by my XO, my number one, Peter Stein. Peter, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Doing all right.
Excellent. We are joined by the Mr. Stage Health himself, feeling a little under the weather today, but we're glad to have him back on the show because we've missed him. LeRon Dawkins. LeRon, how you doing? Thank you for being here.
Oh yeah. Always a pleasure. Sorry if I sound low energy today, but guess what? It's any time is a good time to talk about Star Trek, sick or well.
That is, we are in complete simpatico about that one. We've got a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about the next two episodes of Starfleet Academy, episodes 3 and 4, which are, of course, available on Paramount Plus. And then LeRon is going to depart us. He's going to crawl back into bed, have a little nappy nap, feel better. And Peter and I are going to bring to you the next two installments talking about the awesome Nacelle Company documentary, The Center Seat. So we're going to get into all that. First, got to give a little pluggy plug, as I always do, for the wonderful people over on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. All of our programs come out early there. For example, it's a narrow margin, but this show comes out on a Sunday evening where everybody else in the world gets it on a Monday evening. There's great extra content there, including Peter and I's dissection on the Facts of Geek life of Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica, of which we are getting into the final season. Very exciting. And a secret chat just for the people who are Patreons on our Discord. This is the way it breaks down. Your first week is free. Your first month after that is half off. Which is $1 because you can stay on board for as little as $2 a month. We would love to have you. There's so much to be found. What are you waiting for? At least do the free week. We'd love to see you. Patreon.com/secretfriendsunite is where you find that. No Star Trek news in the last cycle. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. That's dropped. We don't have any
Nothing official. No
new dates for when
there was hints that Nacelle is finishing up some other project because there was something about Frakes leaving an interview that Brian tweeted about, but outside of that, nothing really.
Fair. We try to stick to the facts here as much as we. Ron, have you heard anything in the circulation of news of anything like that?
Not really. And it's typical fare that whenever I am online looking at Star Trek news, it's always the shit I don't like to see.
Oh yeah, feedback from unhappy people talking about unhappy things for absolutely no good reason. I'm not saying this.
They're obviously watching the show if they've got so much to say about the episodes in general. Like they're not just talking about the entire series, a blanket. They're talking about stuff that goes on the episodes. I'm like, okay, so jackass, you're watching it. Just say that.
You're still giving Paramount Plus the minutes, and in the minutes are new ratings. That's how people know if people watch stuff. And without further ado, that does actually take us into the first segment of our show, which is talking about the next two episodes of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which is available on Paramount Plus. We're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4. I'm going to knock out the description here of episode 3, and I'm going to kick it on over to LeRon to start talking about your thoughts. So let's do that. I actually probably ought to let Peter do these because they're both in Latin. Peter's my Latin guy. Peter, what's the name of episode 3?
Episode 3 is Vetus Reflux.
Thank you very much.
Flowing in reverse.
While our cadets compete to join an elite team at the Academy, a battle of escalating pranks breaks out between Starfleet Academy and a rival school, the War College, which I'm sorry, I got thoughts about the War College, and my thoughts is that I love it. Tensions rise fast, threatening their newly emerging bonds and a blossoming romance. Oh, My goodness. LeRon, talk to me about this episode.
Okay. Well, number one, this was a fun episode. Like I mean, front to back, it was a fun episode. It's funny because I was one of the people who was like, Starfleet Academy, do we need it? And then we find out that it's taking place in the 32nd century, and I was like, okay, this is different because like we don't get to like kind of guess like this who's who of like who's going to show up from Legacy series and all this stuff. I do like the fact that there is a war college, and I'm pretty sure the war college happened because of like the burn.
Right? Earth was. They were United Earth again, and the Earth was under. This came from Discovery. The Earth was in like the Tony Stark shell, Scarif from Rogue One, the shield dome. And so that's why they had a war college, and we had some characters, including the Trill that was in Discovery. Again, Peter and I don't love Discovery, so I'm never going to dwell on the fact that we don't like it because I think that that's not cool.
Wait, which Trill? Which Trill are we talking about?
The human was part of Adira was the one who got the Trill symbiote, and that person was from the War College.
Right. Was a product of the War College, whatever. And part of United Earth Force, Space Force for the future.
You're right. You're right. Wow. Like I gotta brush up on my Discovery. Like I watch the series once every couple of years, and at this point, since it's been finished and stuff like that. But yeah, there's some things that the 32nd century of Star Trek is hard to keep up with, in my personal opinion. But I love all the new Discovery, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
for what goes on.
It's very different. The 32nd century is obviously it's supposed to be very different than the 24th century, obviously, because again, if you look at all the stuff that happened in between, there was this galaxy-wide catastrophe, and alliances shattered, and crime ruled the galaxy with all these syndicates. It's too funny. But one of these dudes I was playing pickleball with this morning, who's a regular guy I play with, knows that I do this show. And he stepped up to me and just out of the blue asked me about, so explain the burn to me. What was the burn all about again? And so I was on this topic just a couple of hours ago. So it's kind of funny that you bring it up. But anyway, please continue.
So like the dynamic between like Starfleet Academy and the War College is pretty. Honestly, the War College reminds me if this had to be what the Makos were going through back in Archer's time period. Has to be, so it was like, oh, you found a way to like bring back the Makos, but not call them the Makos. So like I thought that was pretty cool. And their uniforms are kind of throwback to like Discovery 23rd century uniforms. Kind of called back into
2250.
The blue.
Yeah, like they're kind of called back to that. Not sure how I feel about them. Like but still, like just like the whole like like the drops and like the breadcrumbs and all this stuff. It's good. I like the fact that like there is so much seated. There's so much Star Trek old and new seated into this that like it's not. It almost feels like if people liked Star Trek Prodigy, they could get into this. Because like if Prodigy was a jump off point, they had no idea what Star Trek was about, they would definitely like Academy. But anyway, the shenanigans that went on in this episode were epic.
And they're doing good with that, and they're doing good with kind of the mitigation. Who I just call her Holly Hunter. Not that I can't remember the name of her character, but I like calling her Holly Hunter with her cool PJs. With this episode in particular was jam-packed. Peter's covering his forehead. It's jam-packed with so many merch opportunities that I'm keeping an eye on stuff, both licensed and largely unlicensed, to get my hands on the varsity jacket, or at the very least the hoodie. The hoodie is great because it's also a riff on like Wesley's awesome season 1 TNG sweater with the bands. I gotta have one, even though I'm too old to be like a student anywhere. I don't give a shit. I'll wear that stuff around anywhere. I think it's totally awesome.
Now,
I have the old varsity jacket.
Now, one thing I kind of want to break down, and maybe they will, as the season progresses, like the Vulcan character that's on the War College, like she's doing stuff that's not Vulcan. So
she's a Romulan. There's a female Romulan and a male Vulcan.
You can tell because of the forehead.
She's at the ridges. You know how
I must not have been paying attention. Yeah, the northern
So
area.
there's two kinds of Romulans.
The northern
Romulans. There's the northern ridgy Romulans and everyone else. So.
Well, it's funny because that's always the joke they made about Klingons before they explained the smooth-headed Klingons. Gene Roddenberry himself, at the time of Star Trek Motion Picture, said, well, those Klingons with the smooth heads are from the south, and the ones with the bumpy heads are from the north, before we got, obviously, an actual explanation when we got to Enterprise. So, that's funny.
Works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I totally missed that. I guess I need to watch Vita's Reflux again. Yeah. I did watch the follow-up episode multiple times but we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But overall, I really enjoyed this episode. Like, I love Laura Thok. I love her character.
Oh my God, I loved her. Nip it in the bud, or if you prefer, kill it in the cradle.
Yes.
That definitely felt like a very Jem'Hadar thing to say.
She's terrific, and it took me a minute to realize that she is a British stand-up that I have watched clips of her before. And it's in this and in the episode that they pair up her and Tig Notaro, who's another great stand-up who I enjoy, as a couple. And I'm like, I never made the connection that Laura was also out of, you can really see the expression, but I didn't realize she was this particular stand-up, and I'm a big stand-up guy, so that really, I dug that.
So apparently they've been together long enough that Tig's character is definitely rubbed off on her.
Yeah.
Making bad jokes like they have shenaned and they shall shenan again.
Shenanigan.
It was one of those lines where it's like, I love it. It's stupid, and I love it more.
But it was. You remind me of Donald Glover's line in Solo. He says, "I don't like it. I don't approve of it, but I'll allow it."
Yeah, it's kind of similar. Yeah. I laughed, but it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, right.
I am known to make horrifically terrible jokes, so I can't complain.
I had a friend who's been watching, like, he hasn't said if he's watched the most recent episodes, like the two that we're talking about this episode, but he has watched the first two episodes, and he's like, is Star Trek always this funny? I was like, no, not really. Normally they lean into the humor if people already know the lore of Star Trek. They lean into it that way. So like you'll be in a room full of people who aren't like traditional Trekkies, and like you're cracking up, laughing your ass off, and everybody's looking like, what the hell's wrong with him? So like
right.
But I love how organic the comedy is in this show. Like they're not doing what season 1s and 2s of Lower Decks did, which was just trying to just pull it so hard. Like, it's rolling off naturally. And, like, I feel like we have Tawny Newsom to thank for some of that,
without a doubt. And I got to tell you, having seen screeners of the first 6 episodes, so I've seen episodes 5 and 6.
I'm so jealous of you.
Tawny's fingerprints are all over episode 5 in a way that I cannot describe to you, that I find delightful, that I hope you agree with me. And it's really for you, LeRon. So I'm gonna want you to write in some thoughts that we can read on the show when we cover that, and that'll be in a couple of weeks. Yeah, okay. Most definitely.
I've talked enough. I'm passing.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say, Peter. Let me have your thoughts before I kind of punctuate some of my notes.
I liked most of this. I really liked how the cadets were dealing with the shenanigans and like going back and forth. Like that felt very real. It didn't necessarily feel like it was something that would have been allowed to be gotten away with, at least not in the academies that I'm aware of. So the premise was just it stretched my believability, but fine.
Yeah.
So that was all interesting. But one of the things that kind of stood out to me this episode, and I don't know exactly why, is that the adults bother me.
Okay.
The cadets are fine. The adults bother me.
Okay.
Not so much Laura Thok. She is growing on me. I know that I expressed some hesitation with her character in the previous episode, but she's growing on me because it's like there are now moments where she's not just screaming, and I'm like, okay, I like you when you're not just screaming, when you're not just pulling Master Sergeant. I think I'm okay.
Right.
With it.
All right.
It means you have depth. But I know it's going to sound shallow. I know it's going to sound bad. But one, the leader of the War College was just treated like a douchebag. And his love of tea, which I like tea, was fetishized, and I don't appreciate that. That was dumb.
Okay.
And then 3, and again, if you want to kill me, fine. I don't like how Holly Hunter's character has no respect for people of the same rank. And it really drives me nuts.
She's a little too... Yeah, she's a little too...
Because it's like there's a time and place to be like loose with the rules and loose with decorum, but when you're having like a sit down with
like a meeting,
the head of another institution, and you're having a serious like, your cadets are assholes.
Put your shoes on. Yeah,
showing like a complete disregard for just general decorum, like being upside down on the couch, was just like, I'm sorry, like I know that might just be the Picard in me who's just like, sit up straight, but like I can't take it seriously.
You know, I'm wondering if they're trying to paint it as a picture of, hey, this is 1,000 years in the future. Maybe decorum doesn't exist the way it
honestly
did.
They can paint it that way, but to be perfectly frank, I don't care. It doesn't look good.
Make it click.
And and like click. You still need to have. You're still a organization with like at least tentative rank structure where you have to have respect so that things can happen. And if that decorum, if that respect breaks down, then shit doesn't happen at all. Yeah. And so this is just like, this is again betraying something that I have harped on before.
And again,
they just don't understand how these things work.
LeRon, you're a vet, so I know you can speak to this in particular.
Oh, it's all about decorum. It is. It is. 2 things. I think they're trying to amplify what Pelia's character is supposed to be in Strange New Worlds.
I know that's exactly what they're doing. I just don't think it belongs here.
Yeah, you know, that's fair. That's fair.
I think they're trying to make the Lanthanites kind of the opposite of the Elorians. You know, like the Elorians are the sages and stuff like that. And Lanthanites, you know, with their long history and stuff like that, you know, Lanthanites, you know, are up there with the Trill symbionts, you know, and stuff like that, and Elorians and all that stuff. I think they're trying to like make clear-cut divisions between, these really sagey characters, they all have their quirks, you know, stuff like that, you know. Holly Hunter's character, I think they're writing her in a way because like I still feel like she's traumatized by the stuff that she did, back with
absolutely, yeah.
So she's trying to do, and also she admitted, you know, about like, you know, like her son, you know, was killed on a exploration vessel when the burn hit and all that stuff.
Right.
So I think she's trying to do something that humanizes her to the cadets, but also getting them into a way that, you know, makes them feel like, hey, we can be explorers. Hey, we can study tactical and warfare. Hey, we can do this and stuff like that, you know, without it just being like straight to the rules, because I mean she has a lure of thought for that, you know, like
No, I get that, and like the way that she's behaving towards the cadets, I have less of a problem with. It's more of her interactions with, less so with Vance, because it's clear that they're friends, and so I give that a pass. Right, but it's more she's the head of the War College, and also like there does need to be a little bit like when Thought comes in, she is your XO.
Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned Vance. I'm glad you mentioned Vance because it looks like he's lightened the hell up since we first met him in Discovery.
Oh yeah, he's pretty intense back in Discovery. Yeah,
he was still my favorite character back in Discovery.
He was like, we're gonna run y'all out of Starfleet if you don't get it together.
Right. That's something I mentioned actually. I said Tig it pulls right out. I said, Tig, to me, the only thing Discovery got right, and I'm not knocking on Doug Jones. I've met him, a lovely man. I've met Sonequa. She's great. But Tig really does it for me as far as they're going to pull something out. And keep in mind, Mary Wiseman as Tilly still has an appearance this season. I've not seen it, so it's beyond episode 6. But Tig is very endearing to me. And her and Lura as a couple, that really clicks with me too.
I'm so glad Reno's just not a passing character, you know. I'm so glad, because like, I really loved her introduction, you know, in season 2 of Discovery. I really loved it and stuff like that. And you know, I feel like she's probably the biggest survivor out of all the throwback crew from Discovery, you know. And she's adapted in ways that, you know, like I know for sure Burnham learned a lot of things off of her, you know, that run from like XO to captain, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
And of course, you know, I love seeing her in Stamets cat fights.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's the good stuff. So, yeah, I'm kind of with Peter. I didn't love seeing Holly Hunter run around in her bare feet because it makes my feet cold.
It's just being with other people, like in the academy itself.
But overall, the Accorm. However, I do very much appreciate her incredible collection of starships, which of course you could see. My partners can see around this room. Peter's been in my house; he's seen the really big collection I have. But it was really pointed out that her Voyager model has the nacelles drooping in the wrong direction. Did anybody else see this floating around when this episode came out last week?
I did see the picture. That was kind of funny. But to be fair, if you have the old model, it'll do that.
The one from the Playmates one from 1995, absolutely. But the thing that cracked me up is that her big collection it's analogous to any of us having like Viking sailing ships in a collection of those time-wise, because those ships are from over 700 years in the past from where she lives. So it's, and even before she was born, because she's about 300. She's like Dax's age. The Jadzia, when we meet Jadzia in DS9, she's about 350, something like that. I wrote, I got to have those hoodies. The very last conversation that Laura and Holly Hunter are having is meditating on, and Larry said, "Well," Holly says, "Well, what do you usually meditate on?" Decapitation. So it's just like, all the things are landing. I love the little Audrey 2 plants, like if you're familiar with Little Shop of Horrors, that were singing through everything. Lappy the mascot, the because that came from the Most Toys episode from TNG, which I saw not that long ago.
Honestly, I am so confused as to why they picked that mascot, other than it's a deep cut.
That's got to be a tawny. I'm just saying it's got to be a tawny.
Because like historically, the unofficial mascot of the Academy was the Phoenix, which would make sense now. Like it made sense because of Cochrane's ship, but now you're literally rising from the ashes of the old Federation.
Right.
So
exactly.
Why the Lapling? I mean, fine, whatever, you do what you want, but it's still weird.
We will get an explanation. I'm believing it. All right. Well, let's wrap up talking about this episode and give it a rating. I'm at about an 8.5 for this one. Holly Hunter's bare feet shoved off a couple of points, but it was fun. LeRon said it to start with. It was a fun episode. The laughs there was many. There were some lessons. There was some character development. There was kind of some some decent emotional stuff. We didn't even get into talking about the Betazide gal, and I keep calling him Ezra Bridger, Muir. Ezra Bridger / Aladdin. But we saw some nice stuff too. So the ball is moving. Where there's more things being exposed about the cadets that we're learning. And so I enjoyed myself. LeRon, where do you land with this episode out of 10?
8.5, maybe a 9.
Okay.
I like whimsical episodes. This had all the highlights. This had all the highlights of what makes it a Star Trek episode in it. But I've watched so much Star Trek now that I'm like, we need a goofy ass episode. We need it,
Right.
We need goofy episodes. We need to, and if we're trying to get new people into the franchise and stuff like that, we need episodes because like there are so many people that there's so many people that they're like, I tried to watch Star Trek when Next Generation was out, and it was this and that. They talk about starship battles, and then they turn around and talk about the starship battles in the 2009 reboot of Star Trek, and I'm like, ugh, But that's another conversation for another day.
Absolutely. I will. By comparison, the third episode of TNG, which is one of the most revered, Code of Honor. So think about that. Or rather, don't. It's funny. I've been doing a TNG rewatch. Skipped that one. Yeah. There were no other ones that I skipped, but I skipped that one.
Reviled.
Reviled. What did I say?
You said revered. I think it's reviled.
That is incorrect. It is not revered. All right, Peter. Peter, how about you?
LeRon, you're saying something. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Please.
Oh no. I was just saying I have one of the 5 new Star Trek channels on Pluto always running. And
nice.
And usually season one of TNG, like I deliberately skip episodes.
It's so piecemeal. After having watched just kind of all of them recently, but again, they're in the background. I'm like you probably have it in the background as you're working or whatever. That's because I have TV in my office. So I'm right now. I've made it into season 2 of TNG, but I've also got TOS season 1, and I'm going back and forth with those. But yeah. I did make it through TNG. It's very piecemeal in season 1. All right, but that's a tangent for another time. Peter, how about you?
I think for me, I would give this one a 7.5, 7.58 ish, because of just the dynamics between, particularly Holly Hunter and the head of the War College. I just didn't, just really.
That's
me.
fair.
Like everything really else was generally fine. Like I thought it was fun. I liked the silliness. I liked the plan to get the DNA and make like the goopy eyeball. Like it was all really ridiculous. It was all very, very college dorm shenanigans. I thought it was fun. So for those of you who are like, Peter hates the episode. No, I don't hate the episode. I thought it was great. I just didn't like the adults.
You got to pick some nits. That's all right. Okay. Well, I'm going to let Peter not only read the blurb here to go through this because it's more Latin and I'm just not even going to bother. But then I'll let you jump into your now. So Peter, episode 4 is for you.
All right. We'll use classical pronunciation for all of you nerds.
Please.
Vox in excelso, which means voice in the height, or I have the high ground. When an existential crisis threatens to wipe out a beloved but infamous Star Trek species, I'll let you guess which one, a cadet is forced to confront his past and strained relationship with his family. As he pursues an unexpected method of coping, Nala races against time to save this species from extinction. Yep.
Dun 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 dun. All right, break it down.
All right, so the beginning of this episode is debate club, which is fine. We get back to that debate club room that we saw in the second episode, I think, with the when the Betazoids came in. So there is some debate as to what they're going to do. The Doctor is back, being his sassy self, plus a few more colorful metaphors.
He does. He's effing and jeffing, and I love it how one of the cadets is like, "Well, I don't really think you should be talking like that," and he's like, "Hey, kid, why don't you shut the fuck up?"
I have mixed feelings about that. It feels very on brand for the Doctor, and yet it also feels like a pointed stab at those of us who don't necessarily like some of the profanity use.
I know. It was
at least it's not out of control, but yeah,
it was almost like he was like, "Shut your mouth, you snowflake," but whatever.
Like I got it, but it was also here. Let me flip you off while kind of not. So I get it, but it's also like, all right, whatever. So there's some of that, and then Jaden has like a panic attack. He doesn't like public speaking. All right,
I think which I think is an interesting take.
Totally
you don't think about a Klingon having that kind of like. You don't expect a Klingon to have a panic attack. That was crazy to me.
No, but I mean, they're another species. They have similar things. It kind of makes sense. But it's just anyway. He gets called into the office, and they tell him that his family has gone missing. And through this, we find out that my least favorite thing of the entire episode. All right. Since the burn happened, right? Dilithium exploded. Such is the story.
There goes the rest of Rurapente. Bye-bye.
No, it wasn't even Rurapente. So allegedly, the Klingons did not learn the first time when they had a reactor refining thing on Praxis, a moon.
Praxis.
A moon
I was
in
close
orbit to Kronos.
Right.
So then they moved all of their dilithium refinement to Kronos itself, which if you follow Discovery timeline stuff, there is a bomb in the core of Kronos. Yes. Why would you keep more explosives on Kronos?
The Klingons they kind of can't win for losing, can they?
Well, the Klingons being a sentient race would not be this dumb. But so in our timeline here,
as stupid to a fault.
To an extent, but we have allegedly what happens is all of these dilithium refinement facilities blow up, essentially destroying Kronos, rendering it a cratered inhabitable mess. And so now the Klingon Empire falls apart, much like the Romulans in Star Trek 2009.
The Hobus and supernova.
Yeah, so we're playing this over again, and now the Klingons are in a diaspora, and they're now living as basically the Quarians from Mass Effect, and just traveling between the stars, being grouchy and hunter-gatherers on various planets and not wanting to talk to people.
It reminds me of that. It reminds me of that quote from Admiral Cartwright from Star Trek VI. They literally became the alien trash of the galaxy.
Yeah, someone watched Star Trek VI, wanted to play that scenario out, and did it.
I watched Star Trek VI last night for this exact reason. I did, and yeah, you're right, Admiral Cartwright, the alien trash of the galaxy. Ouch.
Yeah. So basically, what we then have happen is there's a talk between Nala and I guess, who stands in for the leader of the remaining Klingon houses. They have a planet they're trying to give them that's basically identical to Kronos, that's like just inside the Federation border. They can't accept it because they've broken off ties with the Federation and see them as their enemy again.
And they're grouchy. Yeah.
Which, exactly. The Klingons are on and off enemies with the Federation regularly. In Star Trek Online, they were enemies at the beginning of the game, and now they're allies again, and then they'll be enemies, in 2 seasons. Who knows?
Toxic girlfriend. Can't deal with
it. So that happens, and then the debate club decides that they want to argue about the Klingon diaspora. Jaden decides that he wants to argue against the Federation's help. There's various arguments. Notably a very interesting pronunciation of Kittimer.
Yeah.
Oh, right. You know what? And if I can interject, when you talked about pronunciation, one thing I loathed about particularly early Discovery is the over pronunciation of certain core Klingon words like Kronos, Kahless, and Mora, but it was brought on with here. So I don't know.
There's more power to you, but
I just figure it's got to be these guys are from different regions of like the Empire or wherever they're at. So like they have
it's a different dialect.
Yeah, different dialect. Because Kalesh is not. That's not the first time I heard Kalesh before, and I think it was even in Legacy Star Trek. The Golden Era episode. Someone said Kalesh one time, and I was like,
I just feel like it was always Kahless.
There was a moment where Gowron said it, but he was being like mumbly and dramatic. But
not Gowron. Yeah. Come on now.
Gowron, my favorite player.
Right.
One of them. Yes. So eventually we do get why am I forgetting his name? Dalen?
Which character?
Jaden?
Not Jaden. No, the other guy, the Colonial.
Ezra.
No, not Ezra. The guy who can walk out in space, the Malfoy stand-in.
I can't remember that guy's name either. The guy with the British accent. Yeah.
So him, whose name is escaping me for some reason,
he's British accent.
He comes in and helps Jaden with a calming exercise from the warriors of his people, which I thought was a nice twist because Klingons are really the only ones we hear their language spoken without translation, and they kind of foisted upon everybody. So this was kind of a reverse. So I thought that was a nice little twist. I thought that was neat. And so then he eventually gets back out there and then is able to argue that we can't force the Klingons to accept our help because we need to recognize that it's basically the Prime Directive, which is they have a right to self-determination. If they decide they don't want our help, they are allowed to say no.
And it's also a Klingon problem. The Empire wants to solve this problem themselves.
The Empire wants to solve this problem by itself, which is fair.
And
if they don't want to ask for help, they don't have to ask for help. And so eventually we then come to, I'm pretty sure this trick has been pulled in another thing that I've seen. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head, where it's oh no, your people are on this planet, and so we're going to have to kick them out with some violence. And then all of the Klingons show up with some Jem'Hadar, actually, and if you see the ships, and they show up and they start shooting at each other. The Federation ships deliberately miss by a hair, and then it's no,
they go full stormtrooper.
We're surrendering. You win.
I know.
Oh, we claim this planet for the glory of the Empire. Oh no, we lost. Okay, time to leave. And so, so there's a way that you save the save face. You're not like literally saving honor because it's still kind of like everyone knows what's going on, but you save face. You pay lip service to the honor, and then you move on.
Yeah.
So
which means there's no real reason to start a war.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
I did.
We all know Starfleet would mop the floor with the remnants of the Klingon fleet. Kind of reminds me.
Well, right, because it's the remnants.
Yeah,
and Starfleet is
thing from Mass Effect.
Yeah. They're building again. I don't know if you guys caught this, but in the flashback scenes where Jaden is remembering his family, they are on Krios Prime. That was a Klingon colony that was also the home of remember the perfect mate from TNG, and it was her name Kamala? Her name it wasn't Kamala in that, was it? And it was because it was Famke Janssen, who is Jean Grey in the original X-Men films. Yeah. But that was Klingon colony, which also played out in an episode where they brainwashed Geordi to kill a Klingon governor. Do you remember? That was So that actually kind of drew it together. I picked out a particular favorite line when Ezra and Jaden are having lunch and it's pizza, and you just see Jaden picking off pepperoni, throwing them, and the line was, "I will not eat anything that didn't die in a fair fight," even though everything's replicated. It's a principle of the thing, right?
Yeah. And then he's eating it later anyway, so. Whatever.
Well, I got to bend the rules. LeRon, jump in, please.
I was saying, pacifist Klingons kind of not bother me. Like just like where do we fit? Where do we fit? I know this.
In a warrior culture, right?
We've seen. I mean, technically, Worf upgraded to a pacifist in season 3 of Picard. But he was still
he decapitated a Ferengi. He's not a true pacifist.
Yeah, he still had his wits about him. There's no doubt about it. He didn't go that soft.
Yeah. Okay, so this is probably the strongest episode in my opinion so far out of the 4 that I've seen. This is probably the strongest episode.
Okay.
Because this breaks down the heart and philosophy of what Star Trek is. Star Trek has always been it's always been like a freaking like exercise in the human crisis and condition. I mean, like this stuff. This is definitely like we're dealing with a refugee crisis right now. I'm not gonna say what it parallels right now in the here and now, because I do not want the evil Trekkies coming after me. Not right now. I will fight you guys another day, but I'm not fighting you guys today. But this is quintessential Star Trek. We have a moral dilemma. We have something that's deeply affecting a main character, and we have to solve like not just one crisis, but 2 or 3 crises, all at once, and without making it seem like it was just all wholesome and saccharine and stuff like that.
Right?
Just. I loved all the backstory for Jaden. I loved it, seeing what his family was going through. Hey, I'm also learning that, Klingons are kind of polyamorous.
That was crazy. Yeah. That was definitely a very Discovery era kind of wrinkle.
A triad family, I'm like, okay,
right.
How's
polycule.
How's this go? Like, honestly, I would really love to break down. Like, okay, so how are children done? Actually, hold on. You know what? I just realized this is like The Expanse. The Expanse had this stuff going on, like a triad family.
It was more than that, but yeah.
It was more than that, yeah. But yeah, like some main character had like 8 fathers.
Don't forget, Andorians are couples or families of 4.
Families of 4. Yeah. Denobulans just have like the biggest open marriages I've ever seen.
Which is so perfect for John Billingsley, because he's a cool dude. I know him personally.
Yeah,
great guy.
It's interesting seeing this, because once I feel like we definitely owe it to the TNG era of Star Trek for learning what we do know about Klingons. But once Discovery came along and started expanding it until people were all like in a huff about like the Klingons. So I love when they expand the lore of characters. Well, not characters, but societies and stuff like that. As a matter of fact. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the next time the hardback edition of the Star Trek Encyclopedia comes out, I'm going to put myself into debt to get it.
Well, that is if they ever met. We had a long conversation with Larry Nemechek on this show about this, and in the digital age, you're not necessarily likely to see one, but we do have Memory Alpha. So there's plenty to read there.
Memory Alpha's getting altered all the time, and there's fights.
I know,
not always useful.
That's very true. I would very much like an official hardbound edition. You're right. I, like you, would drop $150 on a nice edition of it if it comes out. So let's keep our fingers crossed. It might be a nice Kickstarter, like you can see it behind me. My G.I. Joe Marvel run was a Kickstarter of 4 volumes of that entire series, and it's leather bound, and it's like your Shakespeare edition, which I just absolutely adore. So, all right, let me look at my notes. I did love I love the character development between Jaden and Ezra, because they're buddies, but they're exploring their differences and they're helping each other. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it. I did pick out Klingons of this era have two hairstyles. You shave your head or you have dreadlocks. So pick one and nothing in between.
The Chancellor had more akin to classic Star Trek 6 Klingon hair.
Yeah, he was kind of light skinned, which is that's they're going to have different pigments just like we do on our planet as well. And yeah, super cool. The relationship.
I guarantee you, the Phantom Menace of the Trek community is going nuts about that. Like, why are there so many skin tones? Like, shut the fuck up, please.
Yeah, do you live here with us on planet Earth? You're familiar with people from Africa and Asia and the Americas and Europe. Have you ever heard of these things? Oh my gosh. Yep. But yeah, I do love her connection with her old Klingon lover. He's over a century old. They hooked up in the past, and they're like, well, it's not a good idea for us to get back together. But then again, maybe he'll show up again. I think that's fun. I think they're getting. We did get a Klingon Lives Matter moment, which I thought was awesome. That was shouted out into the base. It's pretty cool. So, all right, let's go around the horn. We'll give this one a rating. LeRon, you first.
9 out of 10.
Yeah. These really crushed it for you.
These are the episodes. These are the episodes of Star Trek I love. I love them. I love these types of episodes almost as much as I love time travel shenanigan episodes. You show me a upcoming Star Trek episode, and it's a time travel episode. I'm not going to miss it.
I was going to say it would be a loss if at some point of the show, which I believe was renewed for a second season, if they don't do something that ties in legacy time travel. I think that'd be a big mistake.
Be fun.
Yeah. Peter, how about you?
I'm probably going to give this one an 8.25. The lore stuff I absolutely hated. Absolutely hated. I really loved the conversation between Lara and Jaden at the end. That was amazing. So that the ending scene, the resolution, saved the episode for me. Because I hated everything else. Like some of the stuff was fine. I liked some of the arguments that Jaden made. Like a lot of that stuff was okay. But the whole lore bit and the fact that this was the context just rankled me right from the beginning, and it could not save it until the end. So I'm sorry, but that's just how it was for me.
There's a lot of baggage coming in, and I can't necessarily disagree with you. It was a rehash of this 1,000-year-old plot line from Star Trek 6, and then and then
it's also and it's Trek 2009 and Star Trek Picard season 1 just kind of repackaged. And those were storylines that I did not like. So now that we're seeing them again with the Klingons, so those of who you've heard me talk about this before, I love the Romulans. I didn't like that they did that. And then there's the other classic race, the Klingons. And I'm like, why do we have to take the two classic,
the most important alien races,
most known alien races from Star Trek and blow up their home planets?
Right,
Why?
exactly. It's like, when we've got nothing left, we can blow up a home planet. So I'm with you. I'm at about an 8.5 because you're right.
Let's stop blowing up planets. We're not the Death Star.
That really stung. And we don't need to get into JJ Trek because we'll be here and we'll be.
Thank God.
We'll all be miserable. Yeah. I would say, it was about an 8.5 for me. I was also bogged down by the thing that Peter didn't like, but the debate part and then the flashbacks with the family and then watching Jaden and Ezra connect and support each other and grow their friendship. Pushed away kind of that, I call them hacky bits that were the kind of front end of the episode. So, and a point given back for Holly and her Klingon bad boy lover. Which, you know what? I might change the name of the episode to that. That's not bad at all. Well, cool. LeRon, it's good to have you, man. We got to have you more routinely. We got a lot of stuff coming up in the latter half of the year.
I would love to come back for more.
So we will get you back on, but I'm going to get you out of here, and I'm going to get you back into to have a nappy nap. Where do people find you out there in the social sphere if they want to keep talking about Star Trek or whatever?
Basically, all my socials are the same. EXODUS803. X is 803. If you look that up, I think there's a few imposters out there because somebody on this one platform got it before I did, which I'm like, how'd you come up with something very, very unique that I came up with? Like whatever, But
yeah, you got a stalker.
All my socials is X's803 to some point, or just find me by looking up LeRon Dawkins and stuff like that. I'm also a contributor to the Bosphorus podcast and Bosphorus Network and stuff like that. So you can always find me talking about some stuff. Sometimes I tortured Corey because sometimes I will bring Star Trek into the mix, and he's like, "Oh God, I don't watch this. I don't watch this. Why are you doing this?"
Nice.
Why?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. And I always love to talk anything geeky up to and including Star Trek.
Very good. Awesome. All right. Well, we will release LeRon. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick pause, and we're going to be back to talk about a couple more episodes of The Center Seats. We'll be back in a second. All right, and we're back. Peter had a question, so I had to pause it. So hopefully it's not a boop. But yeah, that was awesome. Love dealing with LeRon. He is one of our regular dudes. You can actually find LeRon and all of our regular contributors on our website under the Secret Friends Unite Squad tab. So check that out. Yeah, we are very privileged to have a lot of really talented people who are regular contributors here at the network. So yeah, go check that out. Respect them, follow their links and all that kind of good stuff on their socials. But all right, we're back into the world of talking about the absolutely exceptional Center Seat 55 years of Star Trek, which is now obviously 5 years old because we're hitting on the big number 60. Produced by the Nacelle Company and friend of the show, Brian Volkweiss is the director and executive producer, just an overall great guy and Trekker. Peter, I'm supposed to get my first Nacelle Company Star Trek figure tomorrow. There was a delay of the entire first wave, but only one figure still said it was delivering on Monday, and that is Star Trek 6 Sulu.
Nice.
We'll see if it shows up, and if with the teacup, and when it does, when and if it does show up, unless I check my email when I'm done here, and they're like, nope, that one's delayed too, because the other ones are like, man, because they ran into
quality control,
they ran into a QC issue, and I'm not
good on them for catching it.
Very good, and I've complimented Brian more than once, and just privately, in messages.
Yeah, because that's people don't do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really goes to show you that Brian is kind of one of us, and I really appreciate that. I respect the hell out of that. So, Brian, if you're listening, which I hope you are, you have our kind of undying esteem and respect. But let's talk about the show. Again, it is available on Prime, Peacock, the Roku channel, and it is now on Nacelle's YouTube channel. I'm not sure it was there previously, or I hadn't stumbled upon it. I have
it's
YouTube.
Also on Plex.
Yeah, I have YouTube Premium, which means I don't watch it with the commercials. When I watched it on Prime, I got commercials, and on the episodes were out of order on Prime, which annoyed me, because what that meant is because they've been out of order since this came out, there's an episode of this that I hadn't seen, because episode 5 was listed as episode 11, and I had never watched it. So yeah, so now I'm psyched. So we jump into episodes 9 and 10. Peter's watched them in reverse, but we're going to talk about it the way that I saw it. I'm going to be the boss here. But episode 9 is called Starships A to Z. Kirk, Spock, Picard, and Data. The list of great Trek characters is incomplete without Enterprise, Starfleet's flagship vessel. But the Enterprise isn't alone. There's a whole list of Federation vessels that aren't appreciated enough. This episode ensures that they are. And I was like, this one is just all about ships, and it's all about Doug Drexler, who was recently a guest on our Spotlight program. We had him on the Spotlight chatting about
the big three, but he's definitely one of them.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to there is a triad of designers in the modern era, in the golden era, the legacy era, and it's we get them all here. We got Michael and Denise Okuda, who are going to be on the cruise, and I've met them before. Very, very nice people, and then Doug, absolutely terrific. So, Peter, talk to me about this episode.
So this episode does a lot of just talking about the design stuff of the ships, which if you've read any of the behind the scenes on TOS, or if you've watched some of the documentaries on TNG, you've heard a lot of this information before. A lot of it isn't new per se. But it's always interesting to hear again. We get the story of Matt Jeffries going back and forth with G. Roddenberry, talking about how to design the original Enterprise, pulling stuff from both kinds of sci-fi ships at the time, the Flying Saucer and the rockets, and kind of putting them together.
I love that.
But then using some aeronautical engineering know-how in conjunction with what they knew from NASA at the time to make the Enterprise, so that just from looking at it, the silhouette, you know where it's from, you know what it is, and you know that it can do things. And that's something that like TOS Enterprise, as much as people want to give it crap, like it is like, you know what that ship is, you know where it's from, and it looks like it can fly in space.
I just don't think there's anyone on Earth who's turned on a television or watched any kind of sci-fi program that wouldn't pick out the Enterprise. And while there are ships,
and even like other cartoons and stuff, like they riff on science fiction, and that's the silhouette they go for now. It's the Enterprise.
Exactly. And although I wrote, oh my God, the Connie 2, oh my fucking God, I wrote because
the Connie 2 is still amazing.
I have so much love and respect for the I would live on one. I've always wanted to live on a Connie 2. I'm sorry if I was to be in space, but I will give ultimate mad respect to the TOS Enterprise, because they did it. They may not do it what's best for me, but they broke ground. And like you said, they combined things that people would know, make something a science fiction vehicle. And they took the three key things: a little cigar shaped body, the rockets on the side, and the flying saucer, and you gave them a neck, and you jammed them all, and you gave them a big kind of ugly dish and little swirly things on the tops of the rockets. And it was the future, man. I found it really interesting. I didn't really realize, of course, we know that Gene Roddenberry was pilot of the B-17 bomber in World War II, but Matt Jeffries was a B-17 engineer, which I didn't really make that. I
don't remember reading or hearing that, which I knew he was an aeronautical engineer. Right. I didn't know that he was specifically on the B-17.
Right. So that was kind of new and different information to me. So I love it how they're talking about as we get into moving into the Connie 2. So we're talking about, production of phase 2
and Andrew Probert.
This Andy Probert coming in, and the Connie 2 is getting into 79 with Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Is that Gates McFadden, of course, is the narrator, talking about the warp speed capable tanning bed because of the radiation that's generated by the nacelles. And this is when in Star Trek: The Motion Picture you see the actual radiation suits that more of the engineers are wearing throughout the Star Trek films. I'm like, that really makes sense, because there's just a ton of radiation flowing around.
I also thought it was funny that I don't know if I've heard this story before, was that one of the ideas for why they changed the front of the nacelles from the Bussard collectors to the vents was because someone talked about combustion. I thought that was like, all right, that's an interesting take, that the Enterprise is using explosions to propel itself. I mean, to be fair, that is kind of how the warp core works, where it annihilates matter and antimatter.
But and annihilating that into an explosive compression, kind of like, an internal combustion engine on the cars that we all drive.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, we don't know exactly how a warp core works. We know that, I mean, the technical manuals show us a little bit, but like, I don't know. It just makes me wonder. Like, when I was a senior in high school, I flipped through a physics book to see how a nuclear reactor worked, right? Because you're told, like, ooh, it's an amazing thing. It does all these stuff. Now, all of the engineers are going to dogpile and kill me after this, but I was so disappointed when I opened up the diagram of how it worked, because it's a water boiler that spins a turbine with an electromagnet. There is no direct energy transfer. It's a tea kettle. Now, it's an amazingly complex tea kettle. But it's a tea kettle. So maybe the warp core also has one. I doubt it. But that would just kind of tie into the, it's a combustion engine, which I thought was funny.
This is funny stuff. Oh my goodness. They moved from there to start talking about some of the other ships. The Excelsior class, which is introduced in Star Trek 3, is called a big monster. And Scotty has the absolute beautiful line as they're on the bridge and they're kind of taxiing into space dock. Sulu says, she's supposed to have transwarp drive. And Scotty says, my grandmother had wheels. She'd be a wagon. Probably the best line in my favorite Star Trek film.
It's one of my favorite. I also like the one he has about 4. It's like, my bet's on Excelsior. Why in God's name would you want that bucket of bolts?
Also in Star Trek 3, we got another ship, which is the Oberth, the science vessel. And I'm like, I bet, it's like buying a new car. You're picking through packages and options. I bet they would have picked the one where they actually had shields, because that poor ship gets blown up in one shot. And it's funny because it's Krug, it's Chris Lloyd as Krug, and he's taxing in, for the kill to disable them. And all you hear Captain JT Esteban is captain of that ship, and he says, all you hear him say is stand by for evasive. They're at red alert, but no shields. I mean, if you can shoot a ship and the shields are just like, it's like holding up a piece of tinfoil, that's a bad design. I mean, I understand it was not a warship or frigate, it was just a science vessel, so it probably didn't go as fast, it didn't have as many bells and whistles, but shields, man, they learned that in Enterprise. They learned in Enterprise you had to have, a blade of, they had some kind of
something, because otherwise
you got to have something. So I was always kind of like, why did that getting blown up?
I always had like back in my head, like head canon is that particular, because the Klingon birds of prey were a fairly new ship at the time. So maybe it was just more powerful than what the Oberth could handle, or had some sort of weapon frequency that passed through the shields. That is the only argument that I have.
That's valid. That's valid.
I don't know that it works, but it's there.
But the fact that they blew it up with one shot is just that, with the loss of all hands, that kind of sucks.
Well, I think like storytelling wise, they wanted to do that because then it showed that the Klingon ship was dangerous, so that when it was up against then it was up against the Enterprise, and the Enterprise didn't get destroyed.
Right.
It showed how tough the Enterprise was, which then made everything else harder. So
precisely. And then we have Andre Boreamis as a contributor to this. We had Andre on the show not that long ago. Super nice guy, but he sums it up for all of us. And again, I can't really remember if I saw this in the theater. My uncle Tim, my mom's oldest brother, is a huge Star Trek fan. I feel like he might have taken me to see this little 2-screen Michigan theater in South Haven, which is my mom's hometown, when I was like 8 years old. It was that summer of 1984. But the Enterprise blowing up is worse than the death of Spock. It was a gut punch, was his statement. And I can't necessarily disagree. I mean, what's the Spock, arguably most popular character in the TOS cast for a lot of people. But the Enterprise is what makes it all happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Enterprise
had that note of like the Enterprise had the most fan mail out of everybody.
We love you, Enterprise. Your nacelles are fabulous. But of course, that ship does get replaced by a duplicate in the Enterprise. Hey, yada, yada, yada. Which the interiors of that were completely bastardized. And I'm probably not, I may end up groping about that a little bit more later. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But we jump forward a few years and we get the Galaxy class described very artfully by a bartender in Picard season 3 as one of the fat ones, which I thought was thought it was so mean. Because it's got that hefty saucer section.
Yes, it's got the saucer paunch.
Yeah. Who is it who said, there was a suggestion. Our buddy David Gerald comes back in because he's, and talking about getting TNG off the ground. And he said, what if we just did away? He said, well, Gene Roddenberry came in and said, well, what if we just do away with ships and people just beam long distances instead? And Gerald said, oh, hell no. Can you imagine?
Also, you would just Stargate at that point.
Yeah. I mean, what's the Star Trek part of that if you're like, I just got in a transporter and now I'm on a planet on the other side of the galaxy. Who gives a shit?
Well, it was one of the gripes that people had about Into Darkness was we had the interplanetary transporter, like trans-quadrant transporters, which was just like
completely stupid. But again, we don't turn this just
all I'm saying is like it did get realized at one point, and it was stupid when Roddenberry brought it up. Gerald was good at shooting it down, and it was stupid when it got brought back up in the 2000s.
And you saw what happened to him.
And you saw what happened, and it was stupid there.
Exactly. So. They used a shot from the pre HD remastering of TOS from the Doomsday Machine, where they're showing the constellation going along. And it's funny because if, you watch the episode and the context of it, the constellation is a very distressed and damaged Starfleet vessel. In that Kirk has to rustle up to attack this. Or to defend against the Doomsday Machine, this big machine. But they show it from a distance, and it literally looks like there was an SNL sketch that Shatner was in 1986 when he was on the show promoting the Voyage Home, where they just have they just have it spinning. So they just have it, and it's for the little nacelles. It's just an AMT model kit, but it's shot from a distance.
A melted, blow dried.
Yeah. But in fairness, that's one of the only times you ever see the starboard side of the ship, because the starboard side of the ship just had wires and stuff on it. If you've ever seen the Smithsonian, which I have, so that was a big deal for the time. But to see it now, I'm like, please make that go away. I don't want to see that. Talking about the interiors of the Enterprise D, Picard's ready room was super 80s. All of like the kind of fabric and stuff. It was kind of pinks and purples. It did give us Andy Probert's
painting,
exceptionally beautiful drawing of the Enterprise D, which I would love to have in this room somewhere. I've never stumbled upon it.
Almost tried to pick it up a couple times, but I have no wall to put it on. But it is
I mean, I would
painting. I love it.
I would probably cannibalize something in this room to make or get rid of one of these that's behind me to replace with that, because that's actually, I take that back, because I have a sheet. And again, this is I have a sheet which is from the Enterprise Blueprint set that is over my shoulder here. That is just a top view of Rick Sternbach's great 1996 Enterprise D blueprints, which are actually pretty easy to find. I'd highly recommend them. But anyway, they start talking about the Enterprise C, which I wrote as the bastard child of the B and the D, because it's kind of it's the love child of the two of them.
It's kind of if you've seen the conceptual art, there's an even more smushed together version of it.
Yeah,
was
very
the
true.
Earlier version, they couldn't make that happen, and so we got what we got, which is still a beautiful ship. I'm not saying the Ambassador class is ugly, but there was a different version that was a little bit more Excelsior-y.
They did an Eagle Moss of it, and it's still floating around out there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The Stargazer, which is Picard's first and most famous command, is the true love child bastard kit basher, because they took bits from. They took the hull of the Connie 2. They took bits and pieces of it's Andy Probert talks about it. He says, I took 2 of these. So I had 4 nacelles and I had 2 necks, because if you look at the back of it, it's 2 necks and 4 nacelles, 2 up, 2 bottom. And then if you look at the underside of it, he's just gluing shit on it, because they had to make a physical model, which saw some use, I think, on 3 occasions in TNG, but it didn't get out of TNG. It was in the battle. You saw it again in the Peak Performance episode, where Riker took command of a ship called the Hathaway, which was a ship of that class. And then you saw it very briefly in, I think, Redemption 2 with Picard's net, that they were creating a net to kind of gloss out.
And I think it appeared in the background in a couple other things in like Deep Space Nine or what have you. So
I'm not sure. You know what? I have to look up a Memory Alpha to see if it survived outside. So now we get to Ron Moore talking about the Defiant blowing your balls off, breaking all the rules, because it's a disc with the nacelle stuck in it, so it's like a nasty shuttlecraft, but it's just nastier than all other things. So they go on quite a bit and talk about that. And then the Wolf 359 graveyard, it's the most bastardization of any bastardizing that's ever been bastard, because they took things, they broke them, they photographed them. We got ship designs, which were all really realized with the Great Eagle Moss line, which I lament.
An Excelsior prototype. We've got like 3 different prototype Excelsiors, which they talk about that, where like Leonard Nimoy was like, well, what if we change this? What if we change this? And they were like, well, we broke it down and put it back together. It's like, no, you didn't break it down, because those models were still in the box, and they
put them in a box and put them on a shelf. Yeah, there's a lot of great material if you watch any of the TNG disc background. Penny Juday, who was a prop master and was responsible for all that, went and opened up some of the crates and showed you the different ships and stuff.
There's some really neat stuff in those clips.
Yeah. Absolutely. Moving on to Voyager, was birthed by a Sternbach doodle as an ice boat Lexus, because they were talking about ice boats and they were talking about making it. I said very 90s, because it was designed 1994.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. It was Jerry Taylor was like, what if we could make it a little bit more like a Lexus?
The entire episode, they have really largely Eagle Moss models, and because Eagle Moss was still in business at this point.
But the Romulan Diderotix was an old Playmates.
I did note that was my exact note.
A diamond.
Okay.
And I think that
I made a note about the Romulan, because they were kind of doing the spinning models, and a lot of those. You're right, because it wouldn't have been an Eagle Moss, because it would have been in a stand. The ones that largely, a lot of the ones you saw in the stands were Eagle Moss, but the Romulan Warbird one is propped up on a single 8-block Lego. And I said, nice work, Brian. That's pretty impressive.
Hey,
because obviously
somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, and now we get to the Enterprise model. Peter, I'm gonna let you talk about this one. That's your baby.
The NX-01. Yeah. So they talk about how this one was actually never a physical model.
Yeah.
This was the first one that was never a physical model. So there is a physical model of the Voyager out there somewhere, even though it was often digital towards the end.
Right. Because it's the early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, but there is a physical. I haven't seen that. I've seen most of the models of the other ships, but I haven't seen Voyager.
Yeah.
But NX-01.
They quote Doug as saying if they want to put it in a museum, it would just be a CD-ROM.
Yep, I thought that
which is also
really
an anachronism. This doesn't exist anymore.
I thought the thumb drive now, or an SD card, or literally a hard drive.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a hard drive from your Apple II.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting how they were talking about how, let's make it more, we were looking more at like, they actually went on board an Ohio class submarine to get inspiration of like how it would look and what the bridge layout would be, making it a little bit less convenient, but more cramped, and adding like low ceilings in places because, it's not made to be big and nice. It's made for utilitarianism.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of funny how they were like, and how flat screens were just coming out at that time? Yeah, we put like $3 million worth of flat screens in the bridge and just had classic TOS stuff flashing on them. And I was like, I wondered about that.
Yeah, right.
that was always funny to me. Like some of them are like, it's less obvious on the bridge itself because some of those are embedded into things, but like on the desks and in some other places, you're like, I have that monitor. That is a Dell monitor. I have that. And so
exactly.
there's just some really funny moments with like, we spent for like this plasma screen TV in the briefing room and all this, like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Which, to be fair, it's kind of cool that they actually had the graphics in camera because that wasn't really a thing of it, like that moved. Because in TNG you had like static stuff that were there, and then if they needed something,
all the cudograms
post.
Yeah. Right.
So these ones would actually move and stuff. So I thought that was cool. But it's still it's still just kind of it's definitely a thing of its time, but it's quite
no
funny.
doubt about it. So to wrap it up succinctly, before we move on to episode 10, again, I don't love the OG 1701 the way that the generation before us does because they really grew up with it. But we would, it changed and shaped the genre. Pop culture and the history of the 20th century. So it is, I do honor it. I have the 2023 Playmates version side by side. It's on the other side of where I'm staring. Proudly displayed here in my studio, and I always will, as much as I love the
2016 pilot version.
Oh, very good. It's still when there was Diamond, it bums me out that Playmate lost the license again. Nobody's making the big ships anymore.
The big ships are the really cool ones, the ones that light up.
Right.
But I like how Diamond did it. They didn't have screws visible as much.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you go back to the Playmates ones in the 90s, you could see the screws. And then there was a short run in 2018, I think, where they did like the TOS Enterprise and maybe one other one, and they're like, we're gonna make it like we did in the 90s. I'm like, I don't want to see chunky buttons and screw holes. I want it to look like a model.
So my hope is that now it's Fan Home that is producing the current series. I am a subscriber. They put out 15 or 16 ships. Their original run is 20. I'm going to stop then because they're like, we're going to keep going. But I'm like, I don't need more obscure. And plus the ships are all bigger. So it's pressing the space I have in my curio and in my dining room or in my den. So I'm not going to do more. But I just, the ships are really what makes Star Trek special. So, all right, let's move on to episode 10. This is going to be, Peter's going to be driving the bus on a lot on this one because it's about his favorite show, Star Trek Enterprise. And this is also the most number of actors I think we've talked to on our network and ones that I've met at shows and ones that I've met on the cruise. So it's like I think we, in a lot of ways, we have a lot more familiarity with these actors and these characters. So Peter, the seat on the bus, the driver's seat on the bus is yours. Talk to me about Enterprise.
All right, episode 10. It's been a long time.
Yes.
The description we get is plagued by fledgling UPN's underperformance. Enterprise's premise, a prequel about the Federation's founding, was undercut by the decision to make the third season a reaction to 9/11. interesting take. Lackluster ratings meant Captain Archer and his crew would only get 4 seasons.
So many moving parts that kind of brought the show down.
Yeah, this episode definitely fleshed out a lot for me in terms of like what was going on behind the scenes of why Enterprise got canceled specifically. And the interesting thing, it was John Billingsley who said it, actually, was like the writing on the wall was for UPN, and we got canned because UPN got canned.
Yeah. So again, to extend the bus metaphor, they're driving the bus, you're sitting in one of the seats behind it, and now you're going off the edge of the bridge into the river.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You're riding the bus, and the driver gets taken out by a sniper on a cliffside road. Have fun.
Now you're going off the bridge into the canyon. Good night.
Yeah. Hope you can find Superman. But there was a lot of interesting information about like what they were going to do. Like it was apparently Rick Berman's idea to do a prequel. Or was it Brannon's? I keep getting who did what mixed up.
Did I write that down? I don't know that I did.
Either way, it was one of them, but it was an idea that had been stewing for a while.
Right.
So they were like, hey, what if we go back and show like the beginning of the Federation?
Or even before that, which they did, yeah.
Yeah. So like the space between finding between the end of First Contact and TOS. So, there's a lot to do there. There's, 150 years. So they talk about like everyone's reaction to it when it first came out, because apparently there was a lot of like iffy about some of the casting.
Right.
Connor tells us the story. We actually talked to him about this, where he was like, yeah, you're just a good old Southern boy, and he does the accent, and it's like,
and he's from Washington State.
Yeah, he's from Washington, and he's told to do a Southern accent. He does it, and it's kind of like this Alabama, like Northern Alabama, Georgia accent. Forgive me if I'm not placing it right, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Sure.
And then they're like, oh, well, he's from Florida. He's like, Florida? That's not what Florida people sound like.
Floribama?
So, I mean, maybe the Panhandle, but that didn't look like that's where he was from.
Right. Well, no, I mean, we do find out, where he's from, because we get that illustration in the first Indy episode, because his town gets wiped out, and we can see that it's kind of South Central Florida, as I recall.
Yeah, it's passing. Yeah. So they talk about that and how the casting. I thought it was interesting how Scott Bakula was basically just chosen. It wasn't like we have to have an audition. There's lots of different candidates. It was like, we want Bakula. That's kind of it.
Yeah, as opposed to Janeway being cast, which, as we know from talking about in a previous installment of the Stocko, they were all over the place. All these different peoples got floated, women's names, men's names. They hired someone who immediately washed out. Yep. And I mean, the laundry list of actors to be the Janeway character, male or female, is extremely long. It's extremely long.
Sisko was a lot shorter. Yeah, there were some. Sisko, I think I think they said it was like just a couple, and then Avery was at the top.
Right. But I do like, and again, John Billingsley points out, Scott Bakula brought an audience with him from Quantum Leap, which is one of my absolute favorite television shows.
Just ended and didn't have a solid ending.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was the toughest part. But they get into talking about the tragedy that is the theme song, which again John has talked to us about, because he said, I was coming to work one day and there were protesters outside the gate, and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Did they hate the show? And they just hate the theme song. Which, because it was the first Poppy theme song and the last Poppy theme song that has been for a Star Trek show.
They said that there was a different song that they wanted to do, which was oh gosh.
But it's funny because they go on, and Dominic Keating comes in. We know Dominic as well from the cruise. He's very, very, and he's Connor's recording partner. They do lots of great shows. They've done a couple of different. The Decon Chamber is the name of their show right now. Please go look them up, subscribe, and support them on both YouTube and podcast streamers. But he pointed out that yes, when they got into, I don't know if it was season 3 or 4, but they poppied it up a little bit, and everybody, even they had Anthony Montgomery as Mayweather on there making fun of it as well. He says, you're not really going to make it better by adding a cymbal and a hi-hat and all this different bullshit to try to, people hate the song, get rid of the song. And they just, they were
upping the energy isn't going to make it like, oh, I love this now.
Yeah. There was a great bit. There were a couple of different things that there was a great bit like they couldn't, the writing staff, and again, Andre Boreamis comes back and talks about it, how they could not keep up with 26 episodes a season, which the other shows did. And I'm not saying they did it standing on their head, but this is a totally different writing staff, and it was not popping in the same way. So they were struggling to keep up. But the side by sides they did with Captain's Holiday, which is an episode of TNG, and the 2 Days and 2 Nights, which was season 1 or season 2?
I think it was season 1.
And watching the mirrored plot lines and some of the mirrored dialogue was hilarious to me.
Oh, yeah.
I found it absolutely hilarious.
I know that I will rag on newer Star Trek for reusing stuff, but Enterprise did it before.
Well, it was almost too fresh. It was like, I have a bandage on because I got a slash to the arm a couple of days ago. Let's pull it off and squeeze some lemon juice in it. I was not surprised by this, but boy, there were a lot of twists of the knife about Jolene Blaylock. She was not
understand. Like I don't think I had heard any of that before. Actually,
she was a big struggle for them, and I feel like potentially it lessened. But let's not forget, along with Scott Bakula, who just finally made an appearance in the Star Trek realm at, I think, Star Trek Las Vegas last year, Jolene, with the exception, and her coming back and doing voice acting at the end of Lower Decks was astonishing. She has completely disappeared from any Star Trek lens. She does not. And every other member of the cast participates in really even at least Star Trek Las Vegas. Linda Park comes back as Hoshi Sato and has appeared at Vegas and has done various
pretty much
things.
Everybody shows up for something.
Yeah. So. But you had Dominic kind of ragging on her, and you had other people. She's terrible actor apparently, or at least I don't think that was actually the verbiage used. Yeah, and hopefully,
how he put it was like she had an acting coach on set, and so it was a little unsettling that they would do a take,
between takes,
and then she would get taken off to the side, and
they'd have a little diluted. Yeah, exactly. So and so
he says, like, he says that makes me feel great. Like, oh no. So it wasn't like a knock on her acting. It was just more of a I have a newbie, and I don't know what to feel about this.
Right, and she was cast for her, for her looks. I don't want to necessarily say it that way.
Well,
but
even to
she had kind of
to put it in that in a nice way, like she was cast because she looked Vulcan, but
exotic,
also
alien.
Yeah, she looked.
I didn't want to say and and of course, the very famous hypersexualization that happened with a few of the characters, particularly in the pilot with the decon chamber and stuff. And it was just, fortunately, the show definitely moved beyond it.
They steered away from that, thankfully. But
UPN ended up being one of Enterprise's most dire foes because it wasn't picked up in certain pieces of the country. The show was frequently preempted for sports programming, both local and national. And so they tell a story of a show that they went to in San Antonio that was crickets because the show didn't air there in that market, in a big market in Texas. So that was very tough. You could see why they couldn't go with it. And then the CBS acquisition happened.
Yeah. And that
while
was,
the show was on.
I had forgotten about that, honestly. But to be fair, at the time, when I know I've told this story before, at the time I wasn't a big Enterprise fan. It took a little while for me to convert, as it were. But I hadn't heard that. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all based on other things. But the fact that Les Moonves was not particularly friendly to Enterprise, definitely. Because of the change of management, like they removed the guy who was above Rick, who was a Star Trek fan, and so like it was on the management corporate side that Enterprise just started getting sabotaged.
Sabotage.
How they're describing it. A lot of it was just like the studio people in charge of Paramount from CBS just didn't care, and they didn't believe in it. They wanted to focus on like teen dramas and stuff like that, which it's the early 2000s. That was the thing.
It was, if you look at the WB, which ultimately when UPN finally took a dump, they jammed the two of them together and they turned into
Was it the CW that they became?
The CW, thank you.
Yeah.
But the suggestion, which I'd never heard before, was can we have a boy band in the rec room on the Enterprise? And then they intercut it with the Way to Eden footage from TOS with the space hippies.
Oh my gosh.
By the way, I want to jump in with the dig from 30 Rock about Les Moonves, which is Les Moonvest. If you ever followed that show. Yeah. But what were you going to say? I had to get in my Les Moonvest.
Like, I do think that it, like, the TOS one, granted, was really bad. Like that, no, it doesn't age well. But
yeah,
I do think it could have been funny, at least as like I think it could have been an episode that we would have looked back on now and gotten a good laugh about.
Right. Here's NSYNC, or here's some, here's
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys or something like that.
Yeah, right.
There. Like, if they had managed to work it, like, especially now, like, we're putting politicians and comedians and all these other people. Why not put a boy band? Like, if we're doing all of that,
right,
if we can work them in to make it ridiculous, and it's not maybe the main part of the plot, but it's something in there that's funny.
Right.
Or, you know how, like, in Pirates of the Caribbean, they put, what's his face?
Keith Richards.
They put him in. Like, if you can make it work so that you get some of that reference, but you don't do it in such a heavy-handed way that, like, down the road, it's going to be like, oh, gosh, that's dated as hell. If you do that, it could work. So they could have made it work, maybe, but I did kind of like Rick's response was, he's like, I don't know if I laughed or not, but I was like, yep, that's an option.
Yeah, we could certainly have a long conversation about that.
And then it didn't happen, which is fine. I just thought it would have been hilarious if they... Because the thing is, like, at least with NSYNC, like, Joey Fatone is a sci-fi guy, more of a Star Wars guy, but it would have been funny to see if, like, there were a couple more nerds that we could stick in there.
I never even really thought about that. It's not bad. So we're getting into, and Les wanted to get rid of Bakula. He said, well, the real problem is Scott Bakula. And I'm like, I don't know.
Like, what did he have against... Bakula.
And so we're going to have ship without a captain, and they're just going to have to figure the shit out.
Yeah, we're going to put it. It was basically like he's going to get sick or something. We're going to shove him somewhere, and then the crew's going to have to figure out how to do it. It's like, I mean, it could have been interesting with Trip or T'Pol being in charge, but they kind of did that a little bit a couple times
in the
anyway.
Which
it worked, but it would have just changed the dynamic and been very strange.
So Berman, for his credit, and a lot of people hate his guts, kept swinging. But Braga took a backseat. He stepped out of the showrunner gig, and he handed it over to Manny Cotto. We talked to Manny's brother. I'm going to say, I'm forgetting now. Is it JT?
Yeah.
Who was Manny's brother? Who was on with the Pan-Can stuff? Manny Cotto passed away from pancreatic cancer, which is the group that walks for the pancreatic cancer team from Star Trek. We talked to them last year. It was absolutely incredible. And I apologize for forgetting Manny's brother's name. I'm so sorry, but what a great guy. Please look it up for me while I'm talking so I don't feel too stupid.
Yep.
But listen to Manny. Manny was a TOS fan, and in coming into play as season 4 began, transformed the show to focus on really fulfilling the premise of the show, which is creating something that became TOS. Which they did really great with visits to Vulcan, a 3-parter there, and a genesis of kind of the mirror universe, which they completely pulled outside of things. And the Mirror Universe featurette where they're talking about the theme song they completed for that still took a shot at the theme song, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
It was the only time we didn't have to have that damn theme song. Seeing the South, is JT. Okay, gotcha. Seeing the Celat or the Celat, depending on how you want to pronounce it, for the first time, even though in shadow and in CGI was still pretty.
It was still neat to see it.
Yeah.
The digital Gorn, which I think that Gorn
was
much better reimagined. Enterprise did a lot of good reimagining of some of the classic stuff.
Right.
Like the Tellarites look really good. The Andorians look way better.
Fully functional TOS set pieces during that Mirror Universe thing, which was it's I don't want to put Lord or Strange New Worlds down too much, but they found a way to make it look real.
As I said about the TOS stuff, it really depends on how you treat it as a set designer, well, as like a set, how you use it, and then the cast. So if you treat it like it is a future technology and it is dangerous, then it will feel that way for the audience. Same with the ship, like the ship shots in A Mirror Darkly. That TOS era Enterprise feels like it's got teeth, and it's how you light it, it's how you treat it. It's what you make it do. So
right.
End of rant.
So we get, as things are unfortunately rocking towards the conclusion, you get a line of Connor saying, we were really picking up steam. And I'm like, oh, dude, you had to say it. And then blammo. And it was during that, I've heard this before, but it was during the filming of that landmark, absolutely terrific Mirror Universe 2-parter that word came down that the show was canceled. And they had just 4 or 5 episodes left. We got what many people, and again, this flies in the face of what Connor said, because Connor, for his own character, had a lot of support for the finale because it did end Trip's story in his eyes, which I appreciate that. But the 2-part, Earth First, was it Demons? Terra Prime and Demons, with Peter Weller as a guest star, as John Frederick Paxson, as I recall, and a lot of the things that unfortunately touch on a lot of things we're dealing with in this country right now, was exceptional. And a lot of people really do choose to feel like that's that's how Enterprise wrapped up, because the finale of the episode, and again, Braga comes on and talks about Rick and I, who have worked on Star Trek for decades, this was what if we write a love letter to the fans and we incorporate Enterprise into a show inside a show of the episode Pegasus from season 7 of TNG, which had aired 10 years prior. And they did everything they could, but Frakes and Marina don't look the same. They try really hard to make them look the same. They try to recreate some of the Enterprise sets. It was kind of painful, some of the things they missed. And it just didn't need to be. And I'm not knocking Frakes, who I have tons of respect for, and tons of respect
for
Marina.
They did a good job with what they had. It didn't quite work. I will say that the final shot is really cool. Is one of my favorite shots.
That was the first time that we've seen all of our heritage vessels kind of illustrated in the same breath, in the same kind of CGI animated quality, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, that was the end of Enterprise. Bakula coming back, and we've talked about this in new segments of the show, and talking about an Archer show that he'd love to see, along with Mike Sussman, who is one of the showrunner, producer, writers of the show. We don't have any more news about that. I would be so wholeheartedly excited about that. Because it would it could give a chance for a lot of our friends who are the Enterprise actors who have been associated with our show, and just that we know from the con circuit, to come back and be a part of Star Trek again. But I wrote The Human Adventure is just beginning. Living in the land of legacy sequels and shows being revived again. It could come back again. So that excites me. I'd like to think about that being a possibility. But at any rate, that's our show. We will come back next week, and we will conclude the series, talk about the single episode 11. So it'll be a little shorter, but maybe it won't be, because I don't remember what it's about. So maybe we'll have a lot to say about it. I have no idea, but we'll be back next week, or in our next episode, talking about episodes 5 and 6. We then take a break because April and I are going on the Star Trek cruise, which means I won't be able to record. So you'll get a little hiatus from us, but there's a ton of other great material, including some great interviews that are coming up on our Spotlight feed. I feel it necessary to mention that Peter and I did a complete overhaul of our RSS feed, because some of our RSS feeds on Apple and Spotify had not updated in over a year. That was due to some errors made by some people who we don't work with anymore. I don't need to throw anybody under the bus, but nobody was really watching it. Really, I wasn't watching it, and I should have been. But now everything is in those places. You also find stuff, obviously, at our website, secretfriendsunite.com. But that's enough of a plug there. Peter, where do people find you out there?
All right. You can find me on the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas on most social platforms. I'm not terribly active, but if you poke at me, I might say something. I'm mostly on our Discord, but you can find me there. You can also find me over at ELH's Twitch and YouTube and Discord, where we do Star Trek adventures and some other role-playing games, but primarily that. And you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
With our friend James Heaney. And then ELH just did a great design for a little original project of mine that was a Starbase logo, which I'm super psyched about. And it's been on my socials. Speaking of, my socials are all pretty much the same, at the C3, THECEETHREE. I also run and post on the other socials out there for Secret Friends Unite. You can just search us and find us there. I'm getting a little more active dealing with our Blue Sky, because I did figure out how to toggle between personal and and Secret Friends one on my phone, which is, of course, that's, we're like, well, if I can't move between the two, it's a huge pain in the ass.
Yep.
So I do all that. I'm a little behind, but our SFU TikTok, I like to sit down and do my little kitchen chat videos where I just tell you about stuff that I'm enjoying. So I got to get back on that. I'll probably do quite a few of them on the cruise, I think, without a doubt, especially going around if I can manage to get, shots with other contributors.
Decide to get one done with Percy Jackson or something. I don't know.
That would be great. I'd love it. On the cruise, both our contributors, Joe Colton and our friend Sean Farrick, are also on the cruise. So you may see pictures of me with them. But find us over there. And again, visit our Discord, our Patreon. Always secretfriendsunite@gmail.com is a great way to beam us your thoughts about stuff that you're enjoying that we can read on the show. We'd absolutely love that. But with that, I will log us off. Friends, thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.